What is going on YouTube? Today we are back with the Platinum Trophy for Warhammer's recent release of Space Marine 2. In this over-the-top and brutal game we had to shoot and cut our way through hordes of aliens and marines alike to save the world from a dangerous artifact. The game itself has 50 trophies and according to the limited guides at the moment it will take around 50 hours to complete, with most of this time being spent achieving 41,000 kills.
See, now that's some bullshit.
The game is designed around replayability, so we will be playing through the game once and then replaying a bunch of random missions. It has also been given an estimated 6 out of 10 for difficulty due to having a few challenges and difficulty based trophies. Fortunately, we were able to play through the majority of it with friends, but all trophies can technically be gotten solo. Now, I wanted to say that right off the bat I am not clued up on the true lore, as I do not play the physical Warhammer tabletop game. I don't have the pre-required autism levels and the bank balance to support plastic crack, however I have played a lot of the video games and they are all, for the most part, very enjoyable with incredible worlds. The game itself is incredible and I would thoroughly recommend playing it through and enjoying what it has to offer. If you enjoy this video, please do leave a like and comment below what games you want to see. Also, if you are interested in Platinum videos, then please consider subscribing for more Platinum Trophy content. It really helps me out. Now, let's jump into Titus's journey to an Ultramarine and how he and the boys stop an ancient artifact from being misused. The game starts off with us getting a Discord message saying that we are being invaded by Tyranids.
Oh, fuck.
We then cut to Titus, who is dressed like War from the first Darksiders game, and his squad, who are quickly attacked while airborne. It did not take long for one of the creatures to WWE spear us out of the helicopter and we plummet below. It is here that we land in our tutorial area and are introduced to a bunch of the basic mechanics and of course some fighting. Even after all the hours I have in this game, I have to say that the finishes and the level of brutality is just top notch and so well done. Anyway, after some tutorials we have to fight our way through the forest and find our way to this bunker where there are of course a lot more enemies. But more importantly, there is a bomb that we help load into the launcher and then we have to defend it from a horde while we wait for it to launch. This is your first taste of how hordes work, and for the most part, it is hundreds of enemies funneling through a couple of entry points that you've just got to hold. We of course held the horde off, and once the bomb was launched we got a cutscene where our boy Tiddy is popping off. However, our little one-man army scene gets cut short as we are flung off the edge down below, and to make it even worse we get impaled by this big boy and essentially die. We then wake up and it appears that we have been stuck back together with glue and staples. The good news is, this whole process turns us into an Ultramarine and gets us the classic blue armour that we sport all game, and also nets us our next trophy. But in a nutshell, we lost our entire Deathwatch squad and lost our badass armour set as well in the tutorial, so we've joined the boys in blue. We then walk around this battle barge and get to meet some interesting characters. The most important is Acheron, who is basically the leader of the boys. He also demotes some random commander and gives us his squad, which is a bit of a dick move honestly. Our first mission as a squad was to head down to this planet and help defend it from an invasion. While doing this, we do get a trophy for getting 100 kills with environmental hazards. This mission, being our first proper one outside of the tutorial, meant we were basically thrown into the deep end. However, after a lot of fighting, we do make our way through to the main base where we not only have to defend it, but we also help get this massive laser beam thing sorted out so that we can shoot down the enemy ship, which of course ends the mission and nets us our next story trophy. Back on the battle bus, we go and debrief and then get another mission to extract this special boy being overrun by Tyranids. We also get some more yapping from some of the other members, which does also unlock customization. While we make our way back to the scientist, let's cover the general premise of Space Marines. We are essentially super enhanced space racists and xenophobes. The mentality is if it is not human, it has to die. When it does come to humans, they have to share the same opinions, or they pretty much have to die too. It is a rather brutal world, but this ideal kind of applies to all other factions as well, and in the end, pretty much everyone's at war all the time. Anyway, after a bit of fighting, we encounter our first boss of the game called Elictor, who becomes a somewhat standard enemy after this encounter. This boss fight lets you get to grips with the enemy because, as you can see, he goes invisible.
That behind the invisible car.
Anyway, we do eventually take him out and head on towards the facility. In here, we get our hands on a flamethrower and made our way through this swarm-like enemy to the other side. We then make it out and get to watch an allied ship get shot down, and unfortunately, this was the evac ship that had our target on it. So, we have to head into the forest to go find the crash site. However, we were able to pick up some jetpacks, which were insanely fun. Anyway, we make it to the crash site, and as expected, our special boy has died in spectacular fashion. But we do get a trophy for completing the mission and then head back to the battle bus to get our next mission. For this one, we have decided to try and track down the special boy's apprentice to carry out his work. On the next planet, we were greeted with a swarm right off the bat, which wasn't too bad, but we did also get a trophy shortly after for saving an ally from a Ravener's grapple attack, which I heard can be a bit tricky. Anyway, we had to fight our way through to the control room and then get some information on the apprentice and the project. En route, we went through this church-like building and was jumped by a Carnifex, which is our next boss fight. He wasn't too bad honestly, as the attacks are quite slow, but later on in the game, Carnifex can randomly spawn inside missions and then they are a problem. After we killed the Carnifex, we headed up to the main computer to get everything that we need. However, once we get there, we notice a massive energy reactor which the Tyranids are swarming to try and blow it up. Since we got what we need, our next objective was to protect this reactor while it shuts down. This meant that we got hordes coming in from all directions and it was outright carnage, but a blast to do. After standing our ground for long enough, we were able to watch the reactor shut down, and this ends the mission, popping our next trophy. Back at the meeting room, we confronted our leader about the intentions of the weapon and the plans. For context, in the first game, our boy Big Titty was facing off against orcs and they were using an artifact that could cause serious unbalance. He of course stopped that in the first game, and now the same artifact is being used by an unknown group during the war with the Tyranids. The apprentice was working on it, and we believe that the Space Marines are trying to use it as a weapon also. Titus of course warns them against it, but that doesn't go too well. Now, going back to the next mission that we are now on, we have been tasked with evacuating the apprentice. Might be a bit difficult as we were shot out of the sky on the way in, but we will find a way. While finding our way, we managed to bump into another minibus called a Neurothrope. These guys are extremely annoying and hit like a train. After some close calls, the squad was able to kill the Neurothrope in brutal fashion of course. We then fight our way over to this massive bridge and meet up with some of the gang, which one of the boys knows very well. Unfortunately, almost immediately after meeting him, we were then ambushed and this guy that we just met was sent back to the main menu. This of course annoyed the gang, but we were then introduced to the unknown group that's been interfering. These Egyptian style dudes are called Chaos Marines and are menaces to society. We of course now enter one long combat sequence which gets interrupted early on as our squad member Chiron, who knew the dude from the main menu, runs off and goes on a rampage. We basically spend the next few minutes fighting through waves of enemies while trying to get to our boy. This was quite fun honestly, but when we do catch up with Chiron, we shout at him for running off.
Naughty, naughty.
With the squad now back together, we now go back to the apprentice and have to help him as he is trapped inside this weird gated bit. This meant lots of fighting through different hordes of chaos, which has been a pretty nice change of pace to be honest, and requires a slightly different playstyle. Anyway, after we work our way through enough enemies, we finally open the gate and are introduced to Little Red Riding Hood. Once we all board the ship, not only do we end the mission, but we of course get another story trophy. In this cutscene, we take everything back to the boss on the battle bus and he of course gives us a new mission. This mission is to defend a relay, no clue what it does, but it is currently being swarmed. The gang also have a bit of a disagreement on the way in about Big Titty's past. When we do land however, we open this gate and then just start fighting our way through the swarm. There are actually quite a few fight sequences here, but the best thing is that we are back fighting the Tyranids. Anyway, after a bit more progress, we were able to get our hands on some more jetpacks, which are always fun. What was also fun was our uptight teammate Gabriel decided it was his turn to go rogue and fly off. He does go on a bit of a mad one, but he does nearly die as well, which gets him a bit of a bollocking. After that, we then all progressed on and eventually made it to this dam-like area. This area is where we decide to hold the line against the Horde, which are pretty much the best parts of the game. Once we kill enough of the Horde, we do have to battle the Carnifex as well, which is a bit of a surprise. The game really does start to pick up at this point and start throwing everything at you, as we were then immediately swarmed by multiple Carnifexes and another Horde. Fortunately, there was another squad of Marines tackling the Hive Tyrant who looks a little bit like your mother, and after they killed it, our swarm all dropped as they are all linked to it. That explanation is quite simple of course, but the Warhammer nerds will know it as the hive mind and synaptic links. Anyway, we then head on inside, and in the next cutscene we gatecrash this suspicious meeting with people in hoods. She then started doing this weird ritual which made her float in the air and get a little bit mad. During her weird ritual, one of the gang decides to just start blasting at the weird witch. It turns out that she is transgender, and after turning into his final form, we enter our next battle. Overall, he isn't too bad. I mean, we were playing co-op, but the main thing is that he has 2 health bars. It did take us a few minutes to work our way through both of them, but once you do get him low enough, he does dip out and run away, which finishes the mission and of course gives us our next story trophy. We then go back to the battle bus to report our findings, and we basically enter the last stages of the game, and our focus is to take the fight to the Chaos Marines and Imora. Before we do that though, we needed to go and get told off by this dude called the Chaplain for a trophy. For our next mission, we actually skydived down onto the planet from outer space, which is as wild as it sounds. We had to dodge all kinds of things on our way down, but eventually we do land and start making our way through waves of enemies. At least we did get a trophy for killing a sorcerer while he is reviving a marine. We then had to defend a certain area while we wait for a different squad of marines to take an old battle barge and ram it into this massive artifact. Very old school but effective. After that, we can then all push forward and eventually end up in these caves. Down here, we find a whole bunch of Chaos Marines and humans all ready to give us a warm welcome. It is really brutal what the Space Marine weaponry does to humans, honestly. Anyway, after plenty of fighting through the caves, we do make our way to this area where we find the apprentice trying to manipulate the artifact. Imora of course rocks up and decides to ruin everything by spawning in a Hellbrew, and we then enter our next boss fight. We did get a trophy during this boss fight though for killing 100 enemies using our Righteous Fury ability. After a few minutes of fighting, we then get his health low enough to of course give him a very gory end. The apprentice dude also gets endgamed, and as expected, Imura steals the artifact and does a runner. Then, at the end of the cutscene, we get our next story trophy. Next up, the gang went back to the others and get to see the side effects of this war. After stocking up and coming up with a plan, we know that this is our last chance and we have to give it maximum effort. Even though they have an actual dragon, we still charge forward, and I have to say, the ending of the game is just incredible. The first thing that we do is we get everyone together around this banner in a truly epic moment that I was bricked for, even though the lore is lost on me. We all just keep blasting at this continuous horde until it looks like we were about to be overrun. However, we get saved in glorious fashion by this badass old man who is called Lord Calgar. We then all charged forward and kept pushing towards this massive tower, which of course meant a lot more fighting on our way through, and we even got to witness probably the most brutal kill in the whole game.
Oh, okay, goddamn.
That really cool mech thing is called a Dreadnought, and he isn't done showing off. He also lobs a boulder at the dragon just for a laugh. With the tide now turning in our favour, the big bad trans person decides to freeze everyone in place and teleport our little group to a separate battle arena, which does net us another trophy. It is here that we enter our final fight of the campaign and finally get to take down Imora. This is a very long-winded fight and he hits really hard. It took a moment to damage him enough, and what doesn't help is that during the fight he starts playing mind games on you. Anyway, we do eventually battle our way through the mind games and the fight itself, which gives us a cutscene of Titus crawling towards the artifact. He of course manages to get to the artifact and he then destroys it. This was expected to have killed him, but of course our big boy has plot armor, so he shortly after wakes up. We were then taken back to the battle bus and welcomed back by a lot of Space Marines. Then, after all of that, we pop that final story trophy as well. Now, let's move on to where you will spend most of your game time, and this is in operations. These are basically co-op designed missions, and what is great is that they play parallel to the campaign missions. The other squad that we're helping Titus out in the campaign are who you play as in this game mode, and their missions are the ones that we go on. Format wise, it plays a lot like the base campaign, but with a lot less cutscenes and a lot more fighting. I won't bore you by going through all of the 6 different operations stories, as they all tie to events covered in the campaign, but from different perspectives. So we split the operations in half, and here are the 3 trophies for completing the first 3 missions. We then went and tried out some of the multiplayer, which is great fun honestly. There are a few trophies tied to the PvP game modes, so we started to chip away at them. The first trophy we got surprisingly was for getting a 5 kill streak. I actually thought that this would take a little while, but I think we got it on our second game. Then, shortly after, we managed to get the trophy for winning our first match as well. While I was waiting for a friend, I was doing some of the challenges and unlocked a trophy for getting my 50th unique finisher. Now that we tried out some of the PvP, we went back and thought we would make our way through the last 3 operations. We promptly completed Operation 4 for this trophy. Then next up, we were able to get another trophy for killing 5 enemies while they were calling for reinforcements, followed by completing the 5th operation for that trophy as well. I then went through the final operation, and I just wanted to say each of them are very fun and well thought out. Anyway, we do get a trophy for killing our 1000th Xenos in operations, then quickly complete the final operation to unlock that trophy too. With all the content explored and enjoyed, it was a matter of just replaying a bunch of stuff to work towards the remaining trophies. The first trophy we got was for finding our 200th pickup during operations game modes, followed shortly after by killing our 1000th chaos enemy for this trophy. I just wanted to mention now that we were probably only about halfway through my actual playtime at this rate, and it started to dawn on me just how hard some of these trophies could be. The 3 trophies that I thought would cause some grief were these 3 right here. We have to mark every single enemy type, we then have to find every single collectible, and then kill 41,000 enemies.
Are you crying, bro? No, bro, I'm good, bro.
Like I said, at this point we hadn't even made it halfway through all of the above. So, to break things up a bit, I thought it was time to dip back into the PvP and get a couple of trophies knocked out there. We got a nice double pop here. The first one was for winning a match with every class, and we also conveniently won our 10th Annihilation game as well. After that, we then went back into operations and started working on the class specific trophies. We locked in early with the sniper class and quickly popped the class's challenge trophy for getting 250 headshots. I then kept rinsing operations over and over again until we got enough unlocked to customize my Space Marine fully for this trophy. With enough unlocked, we were also able to start completing operations on the hardest difficulty, and once we complete our first one, we get a trophy. Now we're on the hardest difficulty, it did not take us long to power through more missions and get 2 more trophies. One was for getting to the maximum level on one class, then we also maxed out our sniper rifles level for this trophy as well. We needed a bit of a break from replaying the same missions over and over, so I went to the campaign to finish off a few bits there. Firstly, in the skydive section, we needed to go head first into the rubble 10 times to give ourselves a concussion and a trophy. We also grabbed all of the data slates, and when we picked up our last one, we got the only collectible trophy of the game. I then went back to playing some operations for the better part of like 10 hours at this point, but we do eventually pop a trophy for getting our 20,000th kill. That is right, we have only just made it halfway to this goddamn trophy. We did eventually manage to mark every single enemy type after just outright spamming it between reloading the entire time, which was a huge relief. I was also able to max out our combat knife for another trophy as well. Then I went through the remaining classes and started knocking off their challenge trophies as well. Starting with the heavy class, once we got our 500th kill in the heavy stance, we popped the immovable object trophy. Then I went to the tactical class and had to get 25 kills with every one of their weapons, and once I'd done that, we popped this trophy. Next up was the Vanguard class, where we had to get 100 of these pistol-like executions called gunshots. Once we'd done our 100th one, we then popped the trophy. Then we swapped to the shield class called the Bulwark and had to get 100 kills with every weapon to get this trophy. And last but not least is the jetpack class. For this challenge we had to hit 500 units with the jetpack slam to pop the final class specific trophy. With the final goal so close, we knew it was time to just get it all over with. Starting with the 41,000 kills trophy. After a bit of research and testing, I managed to find out that in Operation 2, you can avoid detonating the bomb on the bridge. If you refuse to do this, there is a never-ending horde that continues to spawn right next to an ammo box, which is amazing. On top of that, I also figured out that if you spray the bottom part of the swarm's ladder, you kill everything that falls, racking up that count at a crazy rate. I already waited hours in different spots and I was able to knock out the last 15 to 20,000 kills in about 45 minutes. It would have probably been a bit quicker if I realised the whole shooting the bottom of the swarm strategy a lot earlier. Anyway, we do kill enough Xenos to finally pop the most tedious trophy of the game.
Oh my god!
Now, the only thing left are 2 specific encounter challenges and 2 PvP trophies. For the specific encounter trophies, we went back to the campaign because there are points that guarantee a spawn of the creatures that we need. Firstly, we went after the Lictor in the campaign so that we can try and knock it down before it pounces on us for this trophy, followed by going to the elevator part of another mission to force a Terminus Marine to spawn, and then we can get a simple double parry on it. With the 2 specific encounter challenges out the way, now all that's left are to play 10 matches of PvP modes, which did not take too long as you do not need to win, but I was a bit burnt out at this point, so it felt longer than it was.
That's what she said!
Eventually though, we do play 10 of each game mode and pop the last 2 trophies for doing so. Then, finally, we pop that extremely glorious Platinum trophy, and what a journey. Overall, I will say that the gameplay was absolutely incredible and the game itself is very, very well done. As someone who does not follow Warhammer lore, I was invested the whole time even though I was clueless. My only gripe personally was that the campaign and operations are quite short for a full price game. Basically, if you don't do trophies and are the kind of person who don't really replay content, then you could realistically be done with the campaign and operations in around 10 hours, maybe sooner. The good news is, what is there is incredibly well done, and they have already announced that they're going to continuously add content absolutely free, which entirely saves it. I would definitely encourage anyone to play this as it was just so much fun. Then hopefully down the line when there's a few more operations and missions, my little gripe won't really be valid. If you enjoyed this video then please do leave a like and comment below as it greatly helps me out. Also, if you are interested in Platinum video content and want to follow our road to 100 Platinum trophies, then please do subscribe. Now I am working on Star Wars Outlaws next, so hopefully I will catch you in that video.
我很喜欢冰淇淋。